On a previous video, I did a battery-operated S-cab dead rail install on this little yellow Plymouth locomotive. And today I would like to try to do a similar install using this little Plymouth here. And to take care of the electronics and the battery, let's use this hopper car here, changing things up from the little coal car that I used here. And the big difference is going to be I didn't use any lighting on this cab here. Today I'd like to see if we can keep the circuit board that's already in the small Plymouth for DCC power and see if we can incorporate the lights that are already built in on our install. So if that sounds interesting, I know it's a little technical, but stay tuned. Well, our first step is going to be getting the cab and the body off the chassis. So let's pull the couplers off. There's one mystery screw underneath that we have to remove and see what we find underneath. Okay, our body and cab are removed. You can see the chassis. Here's the motor, and we got a flywheel in the back, and here's the little circuit board on top that we're going to try and use. Note that there are a couple little tabs here that you're going to have to mess with when you wiggle this off. Here's the circuit board unscrewed from these posts and slid over to the side. And we have two sets of 2 wires, which are the pickup wires from the rail, and then another 2 wires for the motor control that go to the circuit board. Well, let's fire up the soldering iron and get to work. So here are the components we'll be installing. This DCC decoder we're going to keep and use as part of the locomotive. Here's our battery pack. This is the BPS V4. This, with these gray wires, will get connected to the track pickup wires. This is pre-wired to our receiver and booster. This receiver will get reconnected to our DCC circuit board. This board is already connected to the motor, so that's how all the system will interconnect. Here's the underside of the decoder. Here are the 2 motor wires. And the first step for me is to solder on 2 pigtails to where the DCC will come from the S-cab receiver into this decoder. So I put the decoder back onto the locomotive, screwing it down. So hopefully that will minimize my breaking any of the wires loose. So we're ready for connections, but first we have to take a look at where we're going to store all the electronics. So let's take this out into the shop. I have to drill a small hole down in here so that I can put the battery and electronics here and lead the wires into the locomotive. I drilled a small hole here in the hopper, and then I put a little groove here in the back of the cab. So the wires will go out here and they'll enter in the cab there. And I took a little black acrylic and put it on the inside of where I drilled just to make it vanish a little bit once I put it all together. Because this hopper is gray, I decided to spray paint a little gray on the middle of the 2 green wires so they wouldn't stick out so much. And by using a little of this foam tape, I was able to secure the battery, the power supply, and the receiver all very easily in this hopper car. And so, now it's time to make our final connections. So I took the decoder back off so you can see the wiring a little bit better. The 2 gray wires are going into the power booster. They're from the pickups on the locomotive. And from the receiver, the 2 green wires are going into the decoder. Okay, power supply's on. So let's do one final bench test before we wrap everything up. Forward. reverse. And now let's check our lights. Forward, that's good. And reverse, very good. And then the interior cab light. Fantastic. Well, here it is on the layout. One other thing I did, you can see that faint little blue glow there underneath that hatch. I put a hole under there so that the on lamp, the little blue LED, would show through so I could tell easily when the locomotive was turned on and turned off. Well, let's put it to work a little bit. Well, I hope this will be informative and helpful if you're considering a similar installation for your layout. I'm really enjoying the S-Cab dead rail battery-powered system on my little Erie-Lackawanna switching layout. Not only does this equipment fit in really small places, it works very smoothly, and it's no touch. The battery charges itself from the power that I already had in the rail with my NCE system. Well, that'll do it for now. I'll see you next time.